Everyone, I'm Tally from Ancient Path Adventures, and today I'm sharing with you what we did this past Sabbath. That was really fun for our family. We were studying Ecclesiastes chapter 3 and verse 1 that reads, "For everything there's a season and a time for every matter under heaven." This was a really fun chapter. If you know it, it lists a bunch of times. There's a time for war, there is a time for peace. So we turned this into a fun spin the wheel game, and this was an all-day activity. I'm here to share it with you. So like, share, and subscribe, and let's jump into it. All right, so like I said, in the book, it says there's a time for a bunch of things. So we wanted to teach our toddlers that sometimes there's a time to sleep, sometimes there's a time to play, and things like that. So we wanted to make this verse very fun, and the scripture itself is really interactive. So we put all of these things that you see here into a spinner that looks like this. And so I'll drop the spinner link in the chat. And basically, each one of us got to spin, and whatever the spinner landed on, that's what we did. There was an activity for each one. So I'll go through all of the activities with you all so that maybe you can come up with some fun Sabbath activities and ideas for your family. Okay, so the first activity that our spinner landed on was there's a time to plant and a time to uproot. I think Ecclesiastes chapter 3, verse 2. And so what we did was this fun food art. We made a flower basically, which is our plant out of food. So we use almonds and macaroons, some cucumbers for the stems. And I mean, you can make it out of really much of anything, but it was really fun to plant this flower on our plate and then uproot it by eating it. Our toddlers love that one. Okay, so also you could probably just like water some plants outside and just teach them about the whole planting process. But again, this was really hands-on and fun activity to eat what we planted within a matter of minutes. Okay, the next thing that our spinner landed on was a time to heal. And we got this really cool doctor's kit and we fixed each other. So some of us had boo-boos and some of us just needed to go to a regular doctor appointment and check up. So we were able to take this doctor's kit and do some fun stuff, pretend doctor stuff. And our toddlers loved it. And so again, that one was verse 3, Ecclesiastes 3 and 3, there's a time to heal. All right, so the next thing that we did was there's a time to build and a time to tear down. So we got some blocks and we build really, really big towers. Well, big to them. And then we tore them down. We kicked them down. We hit them down. We had a time for destruction, honestly, because it was a time to tear down. So we were teaching them that there's a time and place for everything. We're not just going to go walking around destroying things. But in this case, there was a time and a space for that. So we continued to just spin this wheel. And so we landed on a time to laugh and a time to cry. And so I don't know about y'all, but my toddlers love to cry. So this was needed. So we set a 20-second timer to just cry on cue, just bawl your eyes out, just bawl. And so that's what happened. And then once the timer was up, we stopped, we cut it. That's the end. That's no time for that. No more crying. And then we started to tell each other jokes and laugh and have fun. And so then we were able to see that sometimes it's a time and a space to cry, and then sometimes it's a time to laugh and have fun, and to know the difference between those things, because when it's time to cry and someone is laughing, it might not mix well together. So again, just teaching these things while also making it fun. So this spinner, once you spin something and it lands on something, it says you have a winner, and then it removes that thing that's already been spun. So as we're spinning, the things that we've already done, the activities, they're getting taken away so we don't spin twice on something. So the next thing that we landed on was it is a time to gather stones and scatter stones. Now, you weren't really about to be throwing rocks. We don't have a pond to skip rocks. So And it was really cold this day, so we just did it inside where we scattered some shoes, gathered them together again. And I think this really taught like the skill of organization, the skill of cleanup. We played the cleanup song along with that. So that was fun to just get everyone engaged for that. But yeah, this verse, you can do a lot of things with this verse, especially if it's warm outside. So if you have any ideas for gathering and scattering stones, which I think is Ecclesiastes 3 and 5, then please drop it in the comments below and let me know. Okay, so the next verse that we landed on was there's a time to hug and a time to not. And so we asked questions like when would be a good time to hug and not, and basically like when you're sick. If you're sick, I don't really want to hug. Not right now. We can do like a virtual high hug, maybe a high five here and there, social distancing. But so some of us were sick, pretend, and then some weren't. And then we learned who to give hugs to and who to not, or maybe a good time to refrain from hugging, and those types of things. So we just had that conversation with them. And I mean, who doesn't? I like the cuddly hugs. So it was a fun activity for me. Okay, so the next thing that our spinner landed on was there's a time to search and a time to give up. And this really got the adults involved because there was money involved. So I got some of these blocks from the dollar store and they open up. And so I put some money in them and hid them around the house. And so the goal was to search out these blocks, and whoever found the block can keep whatever is inside. And like I said, just $1 or some coins or something in there to incentivize them to search. But yeah, this was a fun activity to learn that verse. And then it just so happened that one of us ended up losing our money. So it was definitely a time to give that up because now we haven't found it. I don't know where it is. Okay, so the next thing that our spinner landed on was Ecclesiastes 3 and 6. And so for that one, I don't know about y'all, but my toddler loves to draw and doesn't always like to put the caps back on the markers. So what we did was we got the box of markers and went through each one. We took them out and we colored on a piece of paper. And if it was dried out, then we knew it was a time to throw it away. But if it wasn't, we knew it was a time to keep it. So this was a very literal hands-on example, got a little bit of a chore out of the way, to see when is it a time to keep and when is it a time to throw away. So yeah, that helped me with the household duty around here. Okay, so the next thing that the spinner landed on was there's a time to tear and a time to mend. It just so happens that our happy-go-lucky dog decided to tear up some stuffed animals and the cotton was just pouring all out. So this was a perfect example, again, to do something that probably needed to be done for a while now. And we learned it with scripture. So what we did was we sewed the teddy bear back up. So we put it on the operating table, played some dramatic music, got out the sewing kit, and was sewing this teddy bear back up, all with the verse in mind, Ecclesiastes chapter 3, verse 7, a time to tear and a time to sew. And we let the dog know it is not a time to tear. Do not tear up these teddy bears. But that's a different conversation. Okay, so the next thing that the spinner landed on was there's a time to love and a time to hate. And this is a discussion basically that we had. So we said, think about one thing that we love about each other. And let's think about one thing that we don't necessarily like about each other. And then let's see how we can improve it. So this just got us all talking. It was a time basically for us to voice our opinions about each other. Okay, so the next thing that the spinner landed on was there's a time for war and a time for peace. So in this one, we just taught some play boxing with these boxing gloves. Of course, if you don't have boxing gloves, just anything to fit the theme. It was really fun. And then when it was peace times, we put the boxing gloves away and we all gave each other hugs and just we got a lot of energy out. So I'm be honest, we were just like sweating and tired and just like on the couch. And the hugs came later. But yeah, we had to get a cup of water. We definitely got some energy out. So that's probably a good one to do before nap time. If you're taking nap time, probably sometime during the Sabbath. I mean, throughout all of these, we had some breaks. So that's why I said this was like a full day worth of activities. All right. So the next thing that our spinner landed on was there's a time to be silent and a time to speak. And so with our silent time, we set a timer for about like 3 to 5 minutes and we wrote a poem. It could be about Sabbath, about each other, about anything. We made sure it was complete silence and quiet just to take in the atmosphere, to get our creative juices flowing and just like complete silence because, we don't have that a lot. So yeah, and then when it was the time to speak, we just stood up in front of each other and we said our poems to each other. And it was really cool to hear our different thoughts. They turned out completely different. And so it was just interesting to hear what we all had to say. Okay, so the last thing that our spinner landed on was it is a time to dance. So, of course, we danced to some Ancient Past Kids songs. Go check it out if you haven't already. A link right there. But yeah, we just had a dance party and we enjoyed each other and we had fun. We had fun learning God's word on the Sabbath. It was a great Shabbat. But that wraps it up. That took all day. Great family activities. So if you have any ideas on any of these verses from Ecclesiastes chapter 3, please share them, drop them in the comments below, get those creative juices spinning. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more of these for some potential Sabbath activities, ideas for toddlers, for kids, for children, family in general, drop it in the comments below and I'll continue to share what we're doing on Sabbath. I'll see you next time. Bye.